All right, so we are back, and this time we are going to have a service, but this time it's going to be a node port. So what I want you to do is go to the top here. We'll leave our cheat sheet open just in case we need it. And I want you to type in service Kubernetes. We'll go back to the documentation here, and I'll scroll on down, and I'm looking for one for NodePort. So we scroll on down, keep going here, and we have multi-port service, which shows that you can have more than one port, which is great. And we'll make our way over to NodePort. So here is our NodePort example. And so I'll go ahead and copy that. And we will make a new file here, and we will call this service NodePort YAML. Okay, and we'll double click into it, and we'll paste the contents of it. And I will just bring this down here for a moment so we can see what we're doing. And so this one's going to be called service NodePort. And the type is NodePort, which is fine. And then the selector needs to be this label here so it actually can match. And that's the cluster IP one, so we'll close it. And so we will paste that on in there. And then here for containers, it specifies the environment variable port 456.7. We don't need to pass any environment variables, so I'm pretty sure we can we safely delete this? There's a lot of stuff. I always look at this and wonder if the indentation is incorrect. Oh, whoops. You know what? We are in the wrong file. I was modifying this one by accident here, just making sure I didn't mess up our deployment file. Sorry, we actually want to go to this one here. Okay, so service NodePort, type NodePort, selector app my app, and I was going over to deployment because I just wanted to copy the contents over here. So we'll go here. They're all the same, so it doesn't matter which we pull from there. We'll go ahead and paste that on in there. And notice that we have 3 port numbers. Okay, so these are confusing, the text here. So I'm going to delete these out, and we will write our own descriptions here. So the port is the port that you want it to be for in cluster. So the in cluster port. So, or we could say the port number that resources within the cluster will use to communicate. Okay, and then you have the target port. So the target port is the port that we are targeting. So that would be, so this would be probably 8080 is what we'd want. And this would be 4567, right? So the port number, the container is listening on, right? Because we told Sinatra to start on 4567. And then the node port is the external port to connect to the node. All right. So I'm just gonna make it 30,001. All right. So hopefully that makes sense, but it'll make sense here in a moment when we actually put it into action. I really wish this would default to 2 spaces. Probably is the way here, because the thing with the YAML files is they're highly sensitive to indentation, and they're supposed to be 2 space by default. So just to make sure we don't have any more problems here, I'm going to just double check here and see if I can find the indentation levels. I'm just trying to think about where that would be. We'll go to user settings, interface maybe, indentation. Indent, cloud 9 setting. That's not useful. I just can't remember where it is, honestly. Oh, anyway, we'll just have to be careful about that. It's not a big deal. I just don't want to spend all day on screen scrolling here or stop the video just to try to find that option. It's really not that big of a deal. But anyway, so the idea here is we want to be able to, without even launching BusyBox, we want to be able to do, curl. wget is very similar, but curl is just easier to use. And we want to be able to do localhost 8080, or 3001, right? 3001. And so that's the idea here, is that we don't have to, we can access the service outside of the cluster, right? Okay. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and launch our new NodePort service. So we'll type in micro K8s, kubectl, apply -f, service. Oh, I'll have to type it by hand here. I was trying to hit tab to autocomplete it. And we'll hit enter. And I forgot to type the folder name here, K8s / notice there's a folder. We'll hit enter and it created the service. So we'll type in micro K8s, kubectl, get svc for service. And there it is. Notice we have a cluster IP address. And so that is assigned. Right now, there is no external IP address. So I guess we'll have to take a look at that in a moment here. Well, I guess we don't, yeah, because we don't have an external IP address. So external IP address would be for if we set up a load balancer, because we need an external IP address for an external load balancer to forward its, or like to find the actual service. So that makes sense why we don't have an external IP address. But let's see if we can just get more information on this particular service to see if there's anything new here. I'm not expecting anything, but let's just take a look here and see if anything is different. So, whoops, we'll hit up here. And did I type it wrong? Micro KDIS, kubectl, describe, svc, service. Oh, I typed it wrong, yeah. All right, and so we'll take a look here and see what information we have. So, default, none, that's totally fine. It's targeting this, so the selector looks correct here. It's NodePort, single stack. That is its IP address. The port here, and then here it tells us the node port. We can see that the endpoint is working, so it is going to something. All right, and so now what we should be able to do is type in curl. We'll try localhost here, and we'll do the port number here. Okay, and notice that we're able to access it outside of the cluster. All right, so that was what was very impressive. Okay, and so the next thing that we can do here is just check the cluster IP, like just as we did before. So what I'm going to do is go ahead here and launch up a microK8s kubectl with the BusyBox, and we will go and just test this cluster. So we'll go grab its IP address, and we'll type in wget. And then we'll do 8080, and we can see that we can access that file again. Okay. So that is NodePort. All right. And so now that we did NodePort, I guess the next thing to do would be to do the load balancer one. But before we do that, let's go ahead and just make sure we get rid of that service. So we'll say get svc. I'm going to copy the name so I don't have to figure it out. We'll hit up. We'll type in delete, and we'll paste that on in there. And then we'll go back and hit up again and see that it's gone. And so now we're ready for load balancer.